There's this huge paradox right at the heart of the AI revolution. Companies are pouring billions, literally billions, of dollars into this tech, but almost none of them are seeing any real return. So, what's going on? In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what's behind this massive disconnect. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's start with a number that should stop you in your tracks: 95%. According to a figure from MIT, a staggering 95% of companies are seeing zero return on their generative AI investments. And that's after a collective spend of $30 to $40 billion. I mean, that is a huge disconnect.
So, this is the big question, right? How can so much money, so much effort be going into something with basically nothing to show for it? It's this high-stakes business mystery. But if you start listening to the people on the front lines, the clues are all there. And that's exactly where we're going to get our answers. We're breaking down 5 key verdicts from the practitioners, the real experts, at the recent World EPA Congress. These are the folks who are deep in the trenches, actually figuring out how to make this technology work.
Okay, the first revelation hits on a really fundamental misunderstanding. See, the problem isn't that companies need a better, shinier AI model. No, the problem is they haven't built the right kind of system for the AI to even operate in. It's an architecture problem.
Just take a super-regulated field like pharma. A generic LLM can be an absolute disaster. For something like health technology assessment, which is all about evaluating new medical tech, a hallucinated citation isn't just a tiny error, it's a massive scientific and regulatory failure. These models literally make up sources, they can't trace where their info came from, and they use outdated data. It's a complete non-starter.
So the industry's first attempt to fix this is a technique called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. The idea is pretty simple. Instead of letting the AI just roam the wild west of the internet, you ground it in your own curated library of evidence. And yeah, it helps. It reduces those dangerous hallucinations and improves traceability. It's a good first step, but it is not the whole story.
The real solution, the one people are seeing work, is this: Knowledge Graph RAG. Think of it as the next level up. It doesn't just pull up a document, it actually understands the relationships between the ideas inside those documents. This is how you get true, verifiable source provenance. But, and this is the big catch, it's way more complex and expensive to build.
All right, let's move on to revelation number 2 because it builds on this perfectly. It turns out that even with the perfect technology, you run smack into the next major hurdle: the people, and specifically a deep misunderstanding of what human-in-the-loop actually means. So everyone at the conference agreed that human-in-the-loop, or HITL, is absolutely essential. But you know how it is with buzzwords, right? It's been kind of flattened into a slogan. In reality, people are talking about 2 very different things. One is for basic protection, and the other is for creating a real competitive advantage. So this is the key distinction. Compliance HITL is just having someone check the AI's homework at the end. It reduces risk, and that's important. But expert HITL, well, that's where the magic happens. This is when an expert shapes the whole process from the very beginning, guiding the AI and interpreting its output. One is a safety net, the other is your secret weapon. This matrix from CubeRM makes it crystal clear. Just look at the outcomes on the right. AI only gives you limited impact and a high risk of hallucinations. But look at that top row. When you have human direction and human optimization, you get excellent results. This proves that AI isn't replacing human judgment, it's a tool that needs an expert to wield it.
And that brings us perfectly to our third revelation. So if it's not the technology, and it's not just about having people involved, what's left? It's the strategy. The biggest barrier isn't the tools themselves, it's the thinking behind how they're being used. This quote from Bristol-Myers Squibb just cuts right to the heart of it. After a year of moving from clumsy experiments to really sophisticated tools, their conclusion was simple. The technology is not the bottleneck. Your strategy is.
So what does better thinking actually look like? Well, it all starts with AI literacy. And listen, this isn't about being able to write a prompt for ChatGPT. It's about deeply understanding what the system can do, and just as importantly, what it can't do. That's how you make smart, strategic decisions about where to apply it.
The pharma company Sanofi gave a great example of this in action. Their approach looks simple on the surface: test, learn, fail fast, iterate. But here's the absolute key. At every single step, there's a gate where they have to justify the value. It's not just about failing fast, it's about learning with discipline. That is strategic thinking right there. Now, our final two revelations are really connected. They're about the boring, unglamorous, foundational work that everybody wants to skip, but that ultimately decides whether you succeed or fail. Let's call it the foundation problem.
And that bedrock is built on two pillars. First, engaging with regulators to actually shape the rules of the future, and second, the surprisingly hard task of getting your own data in order.
On the regulatory side, AI is already generating evidence for official submissions. The rules for all this are being written right now. So companies that engage with bodies like the FDA get to help shape the standards they'll have to meet later. And on the data side, the message was unanimous. Every single successful AI system they talked about depended on high-quality, structured data. It's completely non-negotiable.
And this puts it perfectly. If you're spending money on fancy AI tools before you fixed your underlying data infrastructure, you are simply investing in the wrong layer. It is a recipe for failure, plain and simple.
So after looking at all this evidence, from architecture to people to data, what's the final verdict? What is the real gap that's causing that 95% failure rate? The crucial takeaway is this: the gap isn't about the technology, it's structural. It's in the expertise to implement it correctly, the domain knowledge to evaluate what it spits out, and the governance to use these tools responsibly. It's all about building the human and organizational systems around the tech.
And this is the final, powerful verdict from the analysis. Forget about whether AI is a good idea. That debate is over. That ship has sailed. The question now is all about execution. It comes down to who has the real expertise to make it work versus who is still sitting on the sidelines waiting for a perfect certainty that is never, ever going to arrive. So I'll leave you with this question to think about for your own work. Is your organization just focused on buying the next shiny tool, or is it doing the harder, more important work of building the deep, structural expertise you need to actually win?